Today we're going to try to spark our creativity as we dive into Gary Gygax's legendary reading list, Appendix N, here on Rolling with Advantage. Now you may be asking yourself, what the heck is Appendix N? Well, Appendix N is the reading list that Gary Gygax, the creator of Dungeons & Dragons, gave us all the way back in 1979. It first appeared in the AD&D Dungeon Master Guide as inspired reading for new DMs. But what we find with this list is these are the books that he was reading when he created the Dungeons & Dragons itself. So we get to see where the original themes, the original ideas, the original classes, everything that we come to know and love about Dungeons & Dragons started with this reading list. Now, some of these authors you recognize and some you don't, and that's totally fine. I didn't know a lot of these as I was getting started, but there are some familiar faces in here. We see the Tolkien Ring trilogy and the Hobbits on here, H.P. Lovecraft, we all know, and of course Robert Howard, who is the creator of Conan. These are the familiar authors that are on here with a few others. But as we go through and read this and we find the themes, we start to really understand where this game started. And then, while the game has evolved greatly since then, I think it's a great thing to go back and look at the roots and the origins to understand the early concept of role-playing games. And then ultimately the idea is by understanding this, what can we pull from these old writings and old books to pull into our games today? Today's reading is absolutely terrifying. H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness is amazing. It's also terrifying. Now, the great thing about this as we dive into Appendix N, this is a great one to kind of get started in because it's only a 100-page novella, so you can knock it out in an afternoon. Note, I said afternoon. Do not do what I did, which was stay up super late, finishing this, and then couldn't sleep because you were wondering if you were going to get eaten by some giant Cthulhu monster. So I recommend day reading for H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, and probably most of his writing in general. Now, the idea behind this is this will be kind of a spoiler-free review, but what can we pull theme from this into our games? Now, the cool thing about this book is it's basically we want to see what did Gary Gygax, when he read this, what themes and ideas that he pulled from this into Dungeons & Dragons when he created it. And this story is basically the expedition gone wrong. It's written as kind of a journal of someone who went through this, and we kind of get into the psychology and the madness of experiencing something truly horrible. And I love the idea of bringing psychology into RPGs because a lot of times we encounter NPCs or players that go through these horrible things, and then the next day, it's just another day. That was Monday. Now it's Tuesday. Whatever. But, maybe some of these horrible things that they go through actually have lasting effects. Maybe it's how we can start talking about character development and growth. I mean, maybe every time the character now hears rushing water, he thinks about the Kraken that tried to destroy his ship. I'm just kind of thinking, how can we make it more real for our players? Because ultimately, the more immersion that they get into the story and into their character, the better experience that game is going to be for everybody. I note that a lot of times when one person or two people in the group role play better, everyone at the table, it kind of raises the stakes for everybody. So, going in and helping people to really get into the psychology of the game can really help the immersion of the entire table. So, At the Mountains of Madness is great because it allows us to kind of get into that psychology of, the survivors and the dire warnings they give to other people to not go back into this area. Another thing that Lovecraft is great about is the idea of building suspense, which is something that I strive to do in my games. I really like to foreshadow things. I like to use regional effects of monsters to kind of foreshadow what's coming, or maybe even premonitions or omens, or maybe a dire letter left behind by someone who, went down this trail and, didn't make it. Think Dark Souls video game type of thing. You see that sometimes. But one of the things that this guy wrote in the book that I want to, this is spoiler free, just want to read this real quick. It says, "It is absolutely necessary for the peace and safety of mankind that some of Earth's dark, deep corners and unplumbed depths be left alone." I love this. I love this idea that somebody who went through this is leaving a warning for future people to do not go in this area. it's not worth it. We need, whatever is down there needs to sleep. I think if you're looking at certain monsters like an aboleth or something truly horrible in an area, people may have encountered this, escaped, and put up a warning like, do not go back. I love putting that kind of stuff into the games. It makes it real. It kind of has like think of the regional effects, not just of a monster that, maybe there's rumbling because of a regional effect, but also the people around that area maybe know, hey, don't go to this area. You don't want to go to this area. I love that idea. So what we're going to be doing is I'm kind of starting a reading list per se, as we're going to go through the Appendix N. My goal is to read more and more of this and to really kind of get into the head of Gary Gygax, because I feel that if the more we understand where we came from with this hobby and this great storytelling mechanism, the better it's going to help us now and moving forward. So the idea is as a community to come together and learn and become better DMs and better storytellers. So if you have read At the Mountains of Madness, I'd like to hear your feedback in the description below and put in the comments. However, I will ask to make it kind of spoiler free for the people that may be perusing it and haven't read it. I recommend, this is a great pickup, easy read to go through and kind of help inspire creativity for you in your future games. So if you're interested in reading this, I will have a link to it below. We've started an Amazon affiliate, so if you want to kind of go on this little reading journey with us, you can click that, pick up the book pretty cheap, throw a couple pennies our way to help support the channel. We greatly appreciate it. Also, if you like this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and as always, keep rolling with advantage. Thanks.